Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is Bronx Net's program where we talk to reporters, writers, editors, journalists, any people putting stuff out in the Bronx. In our second segment, we're going to go to one of our favorite segments over the last couple of weeks, and we're going to visit with one of the most, I don't want to say gregarious, one of the most colorful, one of the most engaging, one of the most wonderful people, performers in the Bronx. But first, we're going to up to Boston to Boston University. She is a reporter intern with City Limits, and she is currently a undergraduate student at Boston University. Let's say a good evening to Mariam Hydara. Nice to see Mariam Hydara. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
So let's just get started. You are the class of 2024, so I did the math, and that would mean you're a junior. What made you say, gee, I'd like to do journalism?
Well, I honestly think I've told myself that I want to do journalism for the last several years of my life. From high school, I was involved in my school's newspaper. And on a foundational sense, I simply enjoy talking to people and I enjoy gathering and sharing information. So every person I told this to told me, okay, journalism.
It,
And I was
it
like,
sounds like
oh,
1 and 1 equals 2. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I can try that out." So that's really at the core where it lies. I genuinely just enjoy human interaction
Um,
and to people.
how much I've asked so many people this question, and even myself this question: how much does or did or does living in the Bronx, because you are from the Bronx, how much does that contribute to your interest in kind of covering stuff and telling a story? I mean, I could tell you what my reason is, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it. I'm guessing that the Bronx plays a part back there in what you want to tell.
It definitely does play a part. I think about all of the stories that I see around me every day when I go outside and see neighbors hanging around on the street corners or talking to people or throwing block parties. I think about how this is what I want to spotlight if I was a journalist and I want to focus on uplifting the individuals in my own community instead of focusing on a more negative light that I feel like
Well, yep,
portray.
the way that we've been portrayed for generations. I mean, I get it, and I hear the same thing from so many different young journalists like yourself.
Mhm.
Um, you now I want to shout out to my friend Jean Marie, who's the editor over there at City Limits. The intern program provides and provided you with a wonderful opportunity. Now, did you come down here to New York to write those stories, or because in the modern world you can cover anything from anywhere, you just did the work up in Boston? Because we're going to focus on a story, folks, just for people watching, about student homelessness, which I thought was mind blowing. But just tell me a little bit about the intern program and the process at City Limits.
Right. So it is completely virtual at this moment in time. I am working remotely. I could easily come down to New York, considering that is where I live, but it's also easy to do things remotely. A lot of sources are more than enthusiastic about talking to you over the phone or through email or answering any questions that you have through more modern means. So it is remote. But I've been working, my history with City Limits is interesting because I did even more youthful program with them last year when no 2 years ago when I
When
was
you were still in high school?
doing
Oh.
exactly. So I did that, their Clarify program for youth reporters, and we was writing stories about COVID-19, and that's where
Wow.
I was just starting out and learning what it even meant to write inverted pyramids and reaching out to sources and matters such as those. And then this past summer, I worked with them again through the Emma Bowen Foundation, funny enough, because they are a partner with Emma Bowen. So I was like, oh my God, I've already worked with these people. This is amazing. And
Well,
they asked me to stay for the fall semester. So,
I hope many of my friends and colleagues who are editors and are in the position to look at young journalists, we know that you're tied up till 2024, but considering the training that you've gotten, which began when you were in high school, I think and having, from my point of view, having a young Bronxite want to cover our stuff and present us in a realistic and positive way, you get my vote. So, congratulations for what you've been doing. Now, let's talk real serious stuff. You wrote this article, which definitely caught my eye, and the headline was "More New York City students were homeless last year, even as enrollment declined." And it goes on, though total enrollment fell by 3.2%, the number of homeless identifying students increased by 3.3%. And the numbers, I have to tell you, they're just heartbreaking. 104, according to your reporting, 104,000 students who attend public schools are homeless. That is just a startling number. And of course, I shouldn't say, of course. You see how terrible it is? The highest rates of that homelessness, of student homelessness, were in our borough, the Bronx, in the Southwest West Bronx, with instead of one of every 10, one of every five students identified as not having a place to live. Let's just start in the reporting of it. Was this something you were assigned, or did you just kind of find this and say, I better write about it because it needs to be told?
right. This was something that I was assigned. Jean Marie pretty much came to me and she was like, there was this report done about the amount of homeless students there are in New York City. So go ahead and write about it. But as soon as she shared this information with me, I was like, wow, this is kind of mind blowing. And now actually like eager to get this story out. But
Mhm.
yes, it was something that
Yeah, and the thing, and you personalized it so appropriately. There was a student who I think was sheltered in some form in Brooklyn and had to go to Staten Island for their schooling, which, I mean, going across the ferry or somehow in presumably public transit across the Tappan Zee Bridge, in the morning, and then getting to school late and nobody having any care that and giving them just mark them late. I mean, talk about starting from behind the starting line. That is so. I don't even have a question attached to it, but it just was startling. Is there anything? You talked about 5,500 people, children who are unsheltered. They're living in 5,500, living in cars, parks, or abandoned buildings. Anything else about it that struck you that is worth talking about here on this? I mean, it's just mind blowing.
it's the concept as a whole is insane, as you mentioned. I think it's interesting when you look at the borough breakdown. You already mentioned that the Bronx was the borough with the most amount of homeless students, and then Staten Island was the one with the least, and then Queens somehow increased the most since last year. So I find it
So
interesting.
in Queens, there was more homelessness.
Yes, yes, but unexpectedly so, like,
Uh,
um
well, listen, there are so many factors, whether it be, you could start with poverty, obviously, but the price of rents, available affordable housing. I mean, it's a trickle down of 1,000 things. Um, you reported dropouts are more likely. I mean, we're in, what I was thinking of? Out of the 100,000, so that's 1 out of 10. If you have a class of 35, which 35 New York City public school students in any grade is insane, but there are classes of 35, that means 3 or 4 of them in that class are homeless.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the teachers, God bless them, they wanna teach. You know, I don't even miss. I can't even think about it. You also reported that they're looking to get DHS to provide assistance in the shelters. In other words, I would guess enrichment of some sort or homework help. Do you get the sense that that's forthcoming? I mean, that would have to come out of a budget from the city council, of course, and then approved by the mayor. Do you get a sense that there is some attention from the city to this problem?
I would definitely hope so because
Okay.
that solution has been talked about since last year's report originally
Hmm.
came out. So by now, yes, they should be on their motion to allowing more support both in shelters and in schools because it's really baffling that there are this many students that are struggling with housing and yet not as much support for things as simple as homework help like you said because kids who aren't homeless are already getting this type of help with tutors at more funded schools. So you would think that these exacerbated circumstances would bring additional assistance such as those.
Yeah.
It is baffling because I think about how hard it was to simply go to school when I did have a home and
A place to live, a fundamental thing. You know what I think of now, and the pressures to have. Where's my phone? One of these,
Mhm,
and you have to have this working, or you have to be able to write something. They're doing very little paperwork. Everything is on a computer. What are you going to do? Ask that child who's riding from Staten Island to Brooklyn to stop at the library on the way home and
mhm.
wait for a computer to use? I mean, the challenges are immense. We just got about a minute left. Our guest, Mariam Hydara, who is a student intern, believe it or not, with City Limits, and has written what I think is a very important piece. I guess you can appreciate that if you wrote this story, it gives that funding a better chance to happen,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I would think that in your education, you understand this is what I'm actually trying to do. Do you have anything you're working on next, or are you just working on your studies? We got about 30 seconds to go. You got anything you're working on next, or are you going to follow this up, or I don't know what's going on?
I'm waiting on new assignments to come rolling in. I would love to do a follow-up story on this homeless student story, though. I would love to follow a specific homeless student throughout their day.
And tell that story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what that
Listen, Mariam Hydara, congratulations to City Limits, and my friend Jean Marie Everly, who is the editor over there and who has this wonderful program so that we can really get smart, capable young journalistic students to do their thing. And I'm telling my audience, remember the name Mariam Hydara. You're going to read her stuff for a very long time. And we're so proud of you representing us up there at Boston University.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Mariam, for joining us, and good luck in your career. We know that you will be able to do a lot of great things here in the borough of the Bronx. We hope editors get the idea that this is one of the bright young reporters on her way up. And what we'll do is we'll take a short break, and we're going to come back with the one and only Tym Moss, a segment we recorded in October. We'll be right back with that. Don't go away.
TV news, radio reports, and newspaper headlines in the 1970s and 80s misrepresented communities in the borough of the Bronx. Then, something transformative happened. by, for, and about the Bronx, BronxNet was born.
BronxNet provides media education,
opening the doors to competitive careers in the media industry
for thousands of students in middle school,
high school,
and college.
BronxNet.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I am just thrilled because he's my buddy. He's a friend. He's a performer extraordinaire. I asked him, how does he describe himself? He says, I don't know. He does everything. He sings, he dances, he acts, he advocates, he does his thing. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Tym Moss. Nice to have you with us, buddy.
Oh, my guys. Hi, Gary Axelbank. I adore you.
All right, well, feelings mutual. And the reason is because I love people who are who they are, and they want to be that and more.
Yeah.
Just talk to me about your development as a performer, because as I said, you sing, you act. Every time I look up, he's got his arm around somebody on Broadway. He's off Broadway. He's out there in Idaho somewhere, or he's in Indiana, or he's like, oh, I'm at the greatest place in Florida. And I'm like, wait a minute, Tim, it's only 24 hours in a day. So just tell me about you and your energy and what you try to do when you wake up in the morning.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's a whole long sorted story. But firstly, thank you for having me on.
Of
And
course.
again, I felt like it was like 70 degrees here in New York today. So I thought I'll break out the gold lame today.
There you go.
But as far as my energy, it's a kind of a long story. But I'm just so grateful for every day to just wake up and be alive and be able to do what I want. And that kind of gives me the push and the energy to kind of get up and get moving and get going. But I am, like you said, I've had a busy year.
Yeah, I mean, we're Facebook friends, and I follow you, and I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't yesterday he did a Broadway thing, and now he's talking about like he's in South Florida. Your calendar must be amazing. I mean, do you keep track of it, or it's like somebody calls you and you say, all right, good, I'll do that, because you're in a different production every day. It takes me 2 days to put this show together, you know?
Yeah.
How do you do all that stuff? And they're all different.
Well,
I want to get in there. I want to figure this out.
Luckily, the universe just kind of conspires and helps me out, because I will get offers and somehow, some way, they all seem to fit in perfectly. Like today, I'm doing this right now. Then I have to go downtown because I have 3 rehearsals for short plays and then a party after that.
For 3 different plays.
Yes, 3 different shows that I'm doing throughout the month of October.
You know, sometimes when you do what I do, you worry that you're exaggerating or you're kind of blowing something up that should be. But here it is. This is a perfect example. You're going to do 3 different rehearsals, and then you go, of course, go into a party. I mean, it wouldn't be, Tuesday night, or what are we, Tuesday?
Exactly.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Tuesday night if you didn't.
But a few weeks ago, I was doing 3 different shows on the road. One weekend, we were in Rhode Island and Massachusetts doing Lube, which is a parody of Grease. Lube. Very
that's
nice.
Cute. Very nice.
And then the following weekend, we were in Boise, Idaho, with a stopover in Vegas doing 50 Shades of Gay. And then the following week, I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, doing my one-man cabaret show. And that was just, I literally would wake up in the morning and I'm like, I don't know what state I'm in. I don't know what show I'm doing today. Am I a singer? Am I an actor? If I'm an actor, thank God for Google Calendar.
Yeah, you're like the Rolling Stones. It doesn't matter what city. We just go in. Where are we? Cleveland. Hello, Cleveland. I was in Spinal Tap. They were like, hello, Cleveland. But really, from a realistic point of view, I mean, it takes me days to make sure that I've got the right script. I think of the right questions and all that for what I do. How do you keep track? Is your mind that fertile, frankly, that you can remember scripts and you could, do all that stuff? Maybe there's no answer. I don't know.
Yesterday, believe it or not, I just got back from Scranton, where I was doing a full play a musical called Little House on the Ferry. I've done that show many times in the past, so that one was just kind of a refresher.
Wow.
But a lot of the shows that I do are short plays or short performances, like a variety show. Like this Friday, I'm doing 50 Shades of Gay. I just have to show up, sing a couple songs, and do some audience participation, and that's it. So
You are just the best. I mean, now I want to ask kind of the political thing. So 50 Shades of Gay is obviously a take on 50 Shades of Gray.
mhm,
Just
it
talk
is.
about your advocacy. Is the advocacy something that you actively say, I'm advocating for something, or is it more, this is what I do, so take what you want kind of thing? You know what I mean? Is there a political angle to your intention, or is it just, look, this is who I am, this is what we do, I do it?
It's a combination of the two. Like, yeah, I'm just kind of like, look, I'm gonna be who I am. If I have to fight for it, I will fight for it. But and we've had to do, unfortunately, a lot of fighting over the past several years. But
I'm aware of that. We're all aware of that.
yeah, but again, like, okay, Boise, Idaho, that's a perfect example. My friend Ikevelli, who his show is 50 Shades of Gay. It's his show. He had called me and said, "Oh, we're going to be doing Boise, Idaho wants this," and I was like, "Are you kidding?" My first words out of my mouth was, "If I go out there and get drugged behind a pickup truck, I'm going to be pissed."
Yeah, so will
And
I.
then 2 weeks later, there was that militia group that got pulled over in a U-Haul that were on their way to an LGBT rally, or onto a pride, and
Mhm.
they were all going to disrupt it, and that was in Idaho. I picked up the phone and I called him up and I just said, "I hate when I'm right."
Ah,
And he
yeah,
goes, "You want to cancel?" And I said, "Hell no." I said, "That
wow.
we have got to go to represent." What, I don't know what we're going to walk into, but that's our job. Our job is
And,
to
and
go and be ourselves. And fortunately, Boise, Idaho, I was pleasantly surprised, is very LGBT friendly, very artistic, it
excellent.
was amazing. It was great.
I'm thrilled to hear that. And of course there's fear and there's all this other stuff,
Mhm.
but the fact is if you were to not go, then in a way you will have lost the bat. You'll have
Bingo.
conceded the war, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I hate to use these terms because I know that's so unlike what you're thinking about. It's always fun and it's always happy and it's always with love and it's always with music. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what you do. I want to. We're going to talk specifically about some dates that are coming up.
Sure.
You've already mentioned a few of them, but I want to go back a little bit. I remember, I guess, a couple of years ago on this program, we talked about the movie Junk.
Oh,
And you created Junk. We're going to show a little clip. Just talk to me about, because that was a very important production for you, and it was beautifully
absolutely.
done. Explain what it was, and give us a little intro when we show the clip.
Junk is, you want me to tell you now, or
Yes, right now.
okay. All right. Well, Junk
Not
is
next week. Right now. Ahora, right now.
Junk is a full-length feature film. It's a musical. It was written by the brilliant Michael Penny. Um, it was done with a skeleton crew. I flew down there, and there was 7 of us
Down where?
in North Carolina is where we shot it, just
Okay.
outside Durham. And there was 7 of us. There was 5 on the crew and only 2 in the cast. My co-star Robbie Wayne and I, and we made this entire motion picture, all of us joining together and helping out in any way, shape, or form. It was the most amazing, creative and artistic experience of my life. Um,
Really? And I have to say that's saying something because, of course, he's got 3 rehearsals
yeah.
tonight. Right.
But it's about an older gay man and a younger gay man that go in to clean out the house of a recently deceased man who lived like a hermit out in the woods. And we piece
Oh,
his life together based on his possessions, but there's an intergenerational gap. Like, my character, the older character, is constantly saying, "You know what the problem with your generation is?"
ah.
And talking about how times have changed,
You
and
see,
nothing is like sacred anymore.
you're tapping into my culture because you sounded like an old Jewish lady.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. Boy.
all right, so let's let our buddy Anderson cue it up, and let's take a look at just a little
Sure.
clip. And then we'll talk afterwards where people can
Perfect.
find it, where you can see it. Oh wait,
Mhm.
Junk, Tym Moss.
Oh, I've got a mother who is wondrous wise. Thinks if she's a that I'll stop liking guys. Oh, she's crazy that way. Have you never thought about what you're going to have when you're impoverished store of looks are all used up.
All right, just a clip, but it's a full length film.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and how can people see it?
Well, actually, what had happened was we had the New York City premiere, and it was big and it was wonderful, and it was just getting up off the ground. 2 months later, the pandemic hit, and it fell flat. So right now we're picking it back up and trying to get it back out there again.
Okay,
And
so
actually,
people can't see it just yet.
well, it's going to be on UBC TV,
Okay.
and on their pay-per-view, which will also be picked up by Gloot TV, which is kind of like a Peacock or a Tubi, one of those.
I
So
wonder if we can get it on BronxNet at some point. That would be interesting.
that would be wonderful. I would
Yeah.
love to have that.
We have our
do
Film
an after-
Wednesdays show. Yeah, you
Oh,
never know.
I would love that.
Anyway, so let's see. 50 Shades of Gay. I see Saturday the 14th at the
No,
Copacabana.
Friday the 14th.
Friday the 14th at the Copacabana.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. It's Complicated is coming up as well. What is that?
Oh, it's complicated. Julia Genoveva has a series of plays, and they're doing 5 short plays in one evening. And that's at the end of the month at the Producers Club, I think the 28th, 29th, and 30th of October. And it's kind of Halloween-y themed. And I'm in 2 of those shorts. Actually, that's 2 of the plays that I have to rehearse tonight.
You better do a good job.
Yeah.
Are there types of things that you like best, or doesn't matter as long as it fits into kind of the genre that you're interested in? You like musicals best? You like serious stuff best? You like funny stuff? Like what? Or it doesn't matter? I mean, I'm willing to guess. Doesn't matter. You just want to do it.
Exactly. But the thing is I have to feel it. You mean for a role that I'm taking?
Yeah, when you're in something.
Yeah. I have to be able to feel it. It has to. I've turned stuff down because I'm just like, I don't
Turn
feel
stuff down.
Yeah.
I would hate to be somebody who got something turned down by Tym Moss, who does everything. That would be the worst thing that ever happened to me. Anyway, listen, Tim, anything else you want to promote or let us know what you're working on? It's just always a pleasure to have you. The energy is what we want.
Oh, I adore you. But I would recommend everybody out there to follow me. It's TYM, Tym Moss, MOSS, on all social media. It's just look me up, search me, and you'll find me. And on there, I will be announcing about where junk can be seen and where it can be found and all of that. And Gary, thank you so much for all
and the other thing is, if you really follow him on Facebook or any of the others, Tim is like, oh, hey, look who I'm with. Oh, look who I'm with. He's with everybody. You have a beautiful day. Have a good night. Work hard, but have a lot of fun. And we'll see you around town. Thank you so much. The great Tym Moss, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. Kind of a mixed bag show. We had Mariam Hydara, one of the great young reporters from the Bronx, as a matter of fact. And then my buddy Tym Moss, who is everywhere and is one of the most enjoyable people to be around. We thank both Mariam and Tim for joining us. And you know what happens at the end of our show? Yeah, we say we'll see you next week. Good night.